House Republicans just passing tax reform. Senate Republicans adding a big bonus to the package, a repeal of the Obamacare mandate. So will all Republicans buy into it? The vote is set for just after the Thanksgiving break. And someone here says Americans are finally going to get the break they deserve. Hi, everybody. I'm David Asman. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Let's go in focus to find out with Rich Karlgaard, Elizabeth McDonald, Bill Baldwin, John Tamny, and Bruce Japsen. So, Rich, is this a smart move?
Yeah, it's a smart move. I sure hope the Republicans in the Senate all line up together, including people like Susan Collins, and vote for this thing, because getting rid of the individual mandate would be a great tax cut for the middle class, for small businesses, and particularly, you know, the people who have been really hurt lately have been millennials. You know, their young adults are overpaying for their health care. They're also on the hook for pensions and the U.S. debt and state and municipal debt. Let's give them a break.
And Bruce, according to the CBO, it's also going to be good for the debt itself. They say dumping the mandate will save the country $338 billion over 10 years. That's a lot of money.
Well, I have no doubt that the idea is to get fewer people covered so they can free up money to give tax cuts for the rich. But I think
Hold on. In fairness to the CBO, let me just explain how they got that number. The fact is, if people are not forced to buy Obamacare, fewer people are going to be signing up for subsidies and Medicaid. That's how the CBO came to that number. Go ahead.
Okay, well, so I would say you have to have some way, whether it is a penalty or even in the failed Republican repeal and replace efforts, there were ways to expand the pool and require some personal responsibility for people to have insurance. I mean, I'm an advocate for everybody to have insurance. If there are fewer people insured, we're all going to pay, because these people are going to wait, whether they're young or old or whoever, they're going to wait until they get sick and they don't have the money to pay, or they won't pay, and then our costs will go up. That's the way it works.
But, John, the fact is our costs have been going up. You look at the cost of deductibles going up about 36%. Then you look at the cost of premiums going up 41%. This is with Obamacare. Costs have been going up because of it.
It's always going to be expensive when government tries to create a right to a market good. Now, what's interesting about this is that Democrats have never been able to explain why, if Obamacare is so great, that they needed to pass a law to force people to participate in it. Amazon doesn't need a law to bring people to its website. Coca-Cola doesn't need a law to force people to buy Coca-Cola, yet we need this individual mandate. Of course we should repeal the mandate, because it's coercive and utterly unnecessary.
And, Bill, then there's the question of health itself. A lot of Americans are paying such high deductibles now. The bronze plan of Obamacare, which is the most popular, for families, you have a $12,000 deductible. That is, you don't get any money, any insurance, until you pay that much. A lot of people are skipping checkups. A lot of people are skipping procedures because they can't afford them.
Well, not having insurance is not going to make those procedures more affordable. I think we ought to keep the mandate, and for the reason that Bruce alluded to, which is if you don't have insurance, then people who are uninsured go into the hospital, they run up big costs, and the rest of us get stuck with the bills. That's not fair to the rest of us.
But, EMAC, there are a lot of people getting stuck with a bill for nothing. That is, 6.5 million Americans have decided that they'd rather pay a fine than deal with Obamacare. And a lot of those, 90% of those, make under $75,000. 30% make under $20,000. This is a tax on the middle class and the poor.
Yeah, I always wonder, if Obamacare was so great, why were nearly 7 million people choosing to pay the penalty instead? The majority, to your point, under 50K. Remember, President Obama did not like the mandate tax either. He campaigned on that, saying he was opposed to that in 2007, 2008. I like how Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are arguing that, you know, Republicans are going to kick people out of, Obamacare with getting rid of the mandate. This is voluntary. They voluntarily chose to pay the penalty. Instead, many of them lower to middle class.
And, Bruce, what about that? You say that Republicans are against the middle class. In this case, it was a Democrat. It was Obamacare itself, which is forcing 6.5 million middle class and poor Americans to pay a fine because they don't want insurance. This is a middle class tax cut, what the Republicans are trying to get.
Well, I guess one of the wild cards will indeed be, if they're successful in this, and I don't think that they will be, but let's just say they are. Enrollment for Obamacare in the third, and this is what the fourth year now, is surging, despite the fact that the president has tried to kill it and whatever. So it'll be really interesting to see, if they do get rid of it, who signs up, because you say the young people haven't been paying anyway, so we can't really feel sorry for the millennials.
Rich, go ahead.
You know, after a lifetime of smoking too much, drinking too much, eating too much, not exercising enough, people run into health care problems. I don't know why that should be the responsibility of young, healthy families trying to get rooted in this economy.
Well, John, the reason Democrats say it should be is because eventually these people that have very bad health habits end up in the hospital, and we all pay for them. That's why the money has to be distributed to all of us. What do you think?
Well, we're going to have to pay for that either way. I mean, what the Democrats still can't explain is, if their program's so great, why do you have to force people to do it? Why do you need a law? With anything else, we don't. And when we talk about cost, look, the first computer cost over $1 million, the first cell phone over $4,000, the first laser printer cost $17,000. Market competition brought down the price of each. Why is health care so unique? The left have never been able to explain it. Neither have the right.
Yeah, and to John's point, why should we be forced to buy a product we can't afford? That's why people chose to pay, nearly 7 million chose to pay the penalty instead. And if it was so great, the CBO projections were off by like 60% of who was going to enroll.
Bill, what do you think? I mean, I know that you side with Bruce on this, but at the same time, when you force poor people and middle class to pay for something that they don't use, that's an injustice, is it not?
Well, I want to address the fraudulent claim by the Republicans in Congress that having people go uninsured is going to create $300 billion of wealth. You don't create wealth by having people go into the hospital uninsured. The hospital bills still have to be paid somehow.
Well,
there's no magic 300.
Here's the point of that number, Rich. As I said before to Bruce, we are spending a lot of money since Obamacare was implemented in subsidizing people who can't afford insurance, subsidizing people to get into Medicaid. If you're not forced to buy insurance, those subsidies would not be necessary. And the CBO, and they're pretty down the line, they've ticked off a lot of conservatives in the past. They're the ones who came up with this number.
Well, I'm going to make a point that John Tamny has educated us on, and that is what would, the thing that is not seen, the capital that does not go into free market development and innovation in the healthcare sector. If you had a freeing up of the healthcare sector and you could liberate all this innovation and you had that extra money to go into the space, magical things would happen, prices would drop, healthcare quality would go up.
So, John, this might not only benefit the country in terms of lower debt costs, but it might also benefit the health industry itself.
Of course it would. The wealth creation isn't going to be created by government per bill. The way it's going to be created is that you free up the innovators. Silicon Valley is rich precisely because of what Rich describes. It's a cheap revolution, constant competition that brings down the price of everything. Imagine if you unleashed entrepreneurs on healthcare as opposed to allowing Republicans and Democrats to try to legislate access to a market good. It'd be amazing.
If you have to compare entrepreneurs to politicians, I think we all know who would be more efficient in that battle. Thank you very much, gang.